The first time my husband introduced me as his housekeeper, I thought he was making a bad joke. Everyone around us laughed, so I forced myself to smile too. My name is Anna Collins. I was 38 years old and had been married to Ryan for 14 years. We lived outside Seattle in a house we had bought after years of saving. I had worked 2 jobs while Ryan attended law school, paid most of our bills, edited his applications, and talked him out of quitting when the pressure became too much. When he finally joined one of the most respected law firms in Washington, I believed his success belonged to both of us. I never asked for credit. I thought being his wife meant we were a team. Everything changed after Ryan became a senior partner. The promotion brought expensive suits, luxury watches, private dinners, and colleagues who treated him as if he were the most important person in every room. Slowly, he began treating me as if I no longer belonged beside him. He stopped asking about my interior design business. At work events, he introduced me only as Anna. Sometimes he didn't introduce me at all. Then, at the firm's annual gala, a young attorney smiled and asked, "Ryan, who's the beautiful woman with you?" Ryan placed a hand on my shoulder and laughed. "Anna keeps my house running. She's basically my housekeeper." The group laughed. Someone said every successful lawyer needed one. Ryan never corrected them. During the drive home, I asked why he had done it. He sighed without looking at me. "People at my level expect a certain image." I stared at him. "And your wife doesn't fit that image." He remained silent for several seconds. Then he said, "You wouldn't understand." That was the moment I realized he wasn't embarrassed by his joke. He was embarrassed by me. The next morning, my phone rang while Ryan was still asleep. "Mrs. Collins." A calm voice asked, "This is Michael Donovan." I immediately recognized the name. Michael was the founder and managing partner of Ryan's law firm. "I'd like to invite you to lunch today," he said. "There are a few things I'd like to ask you about last night's introduction." I hesitated. "May I ask why?" His answer was simple. "Because I don't believe you're anyone's housekeeper." Michael chose a quiet restaurant overlooking Elliott Bay. He stood when I arrived, pulled out my chair, and waited until the waiter left before speaking. "How long have you worked for Ryan?" he asked. I looked at him carefully. 14 years. He frowned. "That long?" I nodded. "Long enough to support him through law school, pay our rent, edit his first applications, organize his interviews, and help build the life he now pretends he created alone." Michael's expression changed. "You're his wife, yes." He leaned back slowly. "Then why did he introduce you as an employee?" I looked through the window at the rain moving across the water. "Because he thinks the woman who knew him before the expensive suits makes him look less successful." Michael remained silent. Then he asked what I did for work. I explained that I ran a small interior design studio from home. I had designed private residences, restaurants, and several nonprofit offices around Seattle. When I mentioned the Harbor Foundation project, he looked surprised. "You designed that building?" I nodded. "My wife has been trying to find that designer for months." For years, Ryan had called my business a hobby. He told people I decorated rooms to keep myself busy. Yet one of the most influential attorneys in the city already knew my work. Michael asked to see my portfolio, so I opened it on my tablet. He studied every project carefully. When he finished, he said, "My family foundation is moving into a new headquarters. We need someone to redesign it." I almost laughed from the shock. "Are you offering me the project?" "I'm offering you a meeting with the board. Your work will decide the rest." Before leaving, Michael handed me a black envelope. Inside was an invitation to the firm's upcoming charity dinner. My full name appeared across the front, Mrs. Anna Collins, guest of Michael and Elizabeth Donovan. "Attend with us," he said. "Ryan may have forgotten who you are. That doesn't mean everyone else has to." When I returned home, Ryan was sitting in the kitchen. He noticed the envelope in my hand. What's that? I placed it inside my purse. A business invitation. He laughed. For your decorating. I looked at him calmly. Yes, Ryan. For my decorating. He shook his head and returned to his phone, never realizing that the man whose approval he valued most had just invited his housekeeper to sit at the most important table in the room. I didn't tell Ryan about my lunch with Michael. For the next week, he behaved as if nothing had happened. He left clothes on the floor, asked what I was cooking, and complained when his shirts weren't ready. He never apologized for the gala. He assumed my silence meant I had accepted the humiliation. In reality, I had simply stopped wasting words on someone determined not to hear me. 2 days before the charity dinner, Elizabeth Donovan called. She had reviewed my portfolio and wanted me to present my ideas to the foundation board. We spoke for nearly an hour about the building, the budget, and how the space should feel. She wanted warmth instead of cold corporate luxury. By the end of the call, I already had a concept in mind. Ryan overheard the final few minutes from the hallway. When I hung up, he stared at me. Was that Michael Donovan's wife? I nodded. Why is she calling you? She likes my work. He laughed. Your hobby. I held his gaze. My company. His expression hardened. Don't embarrass me at that dinner by exaggerating what you do. I almost asked whether he understood the irony, but there was no point. Instead, I said, you already embarrassed yourself. You just don't know it yet. The night of the event, I wore a dark green dress and arrived alone. Ryan was already inside, standing beside several partners and a young associate named Claire. He looked shocked when he saw me. Why are you here? He whispered. Before I could answer, Michael approached, offered me his arm, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, Mrs. Collins, Elizabeth and I have been waiting for you. Ryan watched as Michael led me to the main table at the front of the ballroom. My place card sat between Elizabeth and the director of the foundation. During dinner, Elizabeth announced that my studio had been selected to redesign their headquarters. The room applauded. Ryan remained completely still. After the announcement, Michael invited him to join us. Ryan approached with a forced smile. Congratulations, Anna, he said. Michael looked from him to me. There is something I want clarified. The table became silent. At the last gala, you introduced this woman as your housekeeper. Ryan laughed nervously. It was just a joke. Michael didn't smile. Then explain why your wife was the only person in the room who wasn't laughing. Ryan looked at me as if I were supposed to rescue him. For 14 years, I had done exactly that. I had corrected his mistakes before anyone noticed, softened his words, and protected his reputation. This time, I folded my hands on the table and said nothing. Anna knows I didn't mean it, Ryan said. I looked directly at him. No. I know exactly what you meant. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Ryan's face tightened. This is a private marital issue. Michael shook his head. You made it public when you reduced your wife to a servant for the entertainment of your colleagues. One of the senior partners turned toward me. Mrs. Collins, is it true you supported Ryan through law school? I nodded. I worked mornings at a design showroom and evenings at a hotel. Ryan studied full-time. Another partner asked if I had helped with his early applications. Every one of them. I also found the internship that eventually led him to this firm. Ryan interrupted. That doesn't mean she built my career. I met his eyes. I never said I did. I only wanted you to stop pretending I had no part in your life. Claire, the young associate standing near him, quietly stepped away. She looked less surprised than embarrassed, as if she had heard a completely different story about our marriage. Michael then placed a folder on the table. Unfortunately, last week's incident is not the only concern. Inside were written complaints from assistants, receptionists, junior attorneys, and support staff. They described Ryan taking credit for other people's work, shouting at employees, and treating anyone below partner level with contempt. Ryan stared at the pages. "Where did these come from?" Michael answered calmly. "From people who were afraid to speak until they saw how you treated your own wife." Ryan looked around the table, but nobody defended him. The image he had worked so hard to create was collapsing in front of the very people he wanted to impress. Michael closed the folder. "The firm will begin a formal review on Monday. Until it is complete, you are suspended from all management responsibilities." Ryan's face lost its color. "You're suspending me because of my marriage." "No," Michael said. "We're reviewing you because your marriage revealed your character." Ryan turned toward me. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You did this." I stood slowly and picked up my purse. "No, Ryan, you did. I just stopped cleaning it up." Ryan didn't speak during the drive home. The moment we entered the house, he slammed the door and threw his keys onto the table. "You destroyed my reputation." I removed my coat calmly. "I told the truth. You sat there while they humiliated me." I looked at him in disbelief. "Now you understand what that feels like." He paced through the living room, blaming Michael, jealous employees, office politics, and even Elizabeth. He blamed everyone except himself. Finally, he stopped in front of me. "You could have defended me." I answered quietly, "Like you defended me at the gala." He opened his mouth, then looked away. The internal review lasted 3 weeks. Every few days, another complaint appeared. An assistant described Ryan screaming at her because a client arrived early. A junior lawyer showed emails proving Ryan had taken credit for months of research. A receptionist said he ignored her greetings for 6 years, but expected her to remember every detail of his schedule. The firm removed him from 2 major cases and postponed his annual compensation review. At home, his anger became heavier. Every conversation ended with him explaining why other people were too sensitive. Meanwhile, the Donovan Foundation project moved forward. For the first time in years, my work occupied most of my day. I hired a young designer, rented a small studio, and began meeting architects and contractors. Ryan barely asked what I was doing. He only noticed when dinner wasn't ready. One evening, he came into the kitchen and found me reviewing plans. "Are you cooking?" he asked. I looked at the clock. "No." He frowned. "Then what am I supposed to eat?" Something about that question ended the last piece of patience I had left. I closed my laptop, walked upstairs, and returned with a folder. Ryan opened it and found separation papers. His hand stopped moving. "You're leaving me over one joke." I shook my head. "I'm leaving because the joke was the first time you said publicly what you had shown me privately for years." He sat down slowly. "Anna, be reasonable." "I have been reasonable for 14 years. He looked around the kitchen as if he were seeing it for the first time. "What happens to the house?" "We sell it or one of us buys out the other." His voice became quiet. "And who will handle everything?" I almost felt sorry for him. Even while his marriage ended, his greatest fear was losing the person who organized his life. "That," I said, "is no longer my job." Ryan moved into a furnished apartment near the office. He said it was temporary. I knew it wasn't. The house became quieter after he left, but not lonely. For the first time, I could work without being interrupted by requests for food, laundry, appointments, or misplaced keys. I hadn't understood how exhausted I was until I stopped carrying another adult through every day. 2 months later, the firm completed its review. Ryan was allowed to remain as an attorney, but he lost his leadership position, several major clients, and his chance to become managing partner. Michael made it clear that technical ability did not excuse cruelty. Ryan called me the evening the decision became official. "They took everything from me," he said. "No," I replied. "They took the title. Everything else you lost happened long before that." My design studio continued growing. The foundation headquarters received attention before it was even completed. Elizabeth recommended me to 2 private clients, and a local magazine requested an interview. When the journalist asked how I had built my business, I almost told her the truth. I built it in the corners of a life where someone else expected to occupy all the space. One rainy evening, Ryan appeared at the house holding white flowers. I let him inside but did not make coffee or offer dinner. He looked around the living room. "It doesn't feel like my home anymore." I answered, "It stopped feeling like mine years ago." He apologized. At first, the apology was full of explanations, stress, pressure, insecurity, the need to impress important people. I listened until he finally stopped talking. Then he said, "I was ashamed of where I came from, and I punished the person who remembered me before I became successful." That was the first honest sentence he had spoken in a long time. "I believe you're sorry," I said. Hope appeared in his eyes. "Then maybe we can fix this." I shook my head. Believing your apology doesn't mean returning to the person who made it necessary. Before leaving, he asked one final question. "Was there ever a chance for us?" I looked at him for a long moment. "There was a chance every day you came home and saw me. You just kept choosing not to notice." 6 months after our separation, the Donovan Foundation headquarters opened. The finished building had warm wood, natural light, quiet meeting spaces, and a central wall displaying photographs of the families the foundation had helped. Elizabeth cried when she saw it. Michael stood beside me during the opening reception and said, "This place feels human." That's what was missing before. The event was covered by several local publications. My name appeared on the program, the press release, and a bronze plaque near the entrance. For years, Ryan had treated my work as something small. Now hundreds of people walked through a building shaped by my ideas. Ryan attended the opening alone. I noticed him standing near the back of the room, looking thinner and older. When the speeches ended, he approached me carefully. "You did all of this?" he asked. I nodded. "With my team." He looked around again. I had no idea. I smiled sadly. "You never asked." He lowered his eyes. "I told people you decorated rooms because I was afraid your success would make mine look less important." His honesty no longer shocked me. It simply confirmed what I had already learned. Another person's light doesn't make yours smaller, Ryan. You chose to stand in front of mine because you were afraid people might see me. He nodded slowly. "Michael offered me a chance to rebuild my position someday." "That's good." "I started therapy." "That's also good." He studied my face. "But none of it brings you back, no." Before leaving, he held out a small envelope. Inside was a photograph from his law school graduation. I stood beside him wearing a cheap blue dress, exhausted after working a double shift, while he held his diploma and smiled at the camera. On the back he had written, "I should have remembered who was standing beside me before anyone else cared who I was." I kept the photograph not because I wanted him back, but because it reminded me that the years had not been imaginary. I had loved him. I had helped him. And leaving did not erase my loyalty. It only ended his right to exploit it. As Ryan walked away, Michael stepped beside me. "Are you all right?" I looked around the building, at my employees, my clients, and the work carrying my name. For the first time, I said, "I think I am." 1 year after the gala, our divorce became final. There was no dramatic courtroom battle. We divided the house, the savings, and the furniture. Ryan signed the papers quietly. Before leaving, he said, "I hope one day you remember something good about me." I answered honestly, "I already do. But good memories aren't enough to build a safe future." I kept the house after buying out his share, but I changed almost everything inside it. The dark furniture he had chosen to impress clients disappeared. I replaced it with warm colors, open shelves, soft lighting, and artwork from local women. The room where Ryan once stored golf equipment became my home office. The dining room where I had served his colleagues became a place where my team met for Friday lunches. Slowly, the house stopped feeling like evidence of a failed marriage and started feeling like mine. My studio grew from 2 employees to 7. We designed restaurants, nonprofit offices, and family homes. I hired women returning to work after raising children because I knew what it felt like to have years of invisible labor treated as an empty space on a resume. On the wall near the entrance, I placed a simple sentence in black letters: "Never apologize for taking up space." Ryan and I spoke occasionally. He became quieter and more respectful. I didn't hate him. Hate would have kept him at the center of my life, and I had spent enough years arranging everything around him. He became a lesson instead of a wound. At the anniversary celebration for my studio, Michael raised a glass and introduced me as Anna Collins, founder, designer, and the woman who taught several powerful people that dignity is not connected to job titles. Everyone applauded. I smiled and remembered the night Ryan called me his housekeeper. He believed the word would make me smaller. Instead, it revealed how small my marriage had become. The truth was, I had spent 14 years cleaning. I cleaned the house, corrected Ryan's mistakes, protected his reputation, and removed every consequence before it reached him. The day I stopped cleaning up his mess was the day he finally had to look at what he had become. And it was the day I finally began building a life where no one would ever be ashamed to call me by my real name. The end.